Hello and welcome back to another exciting episode of Rex the Shiba Inu. This is Rex's fourth week with us and his final week in his puppy basic obedience course. I've sped this footage up to 300% of normal speed, so please take that into account. Rex is a very quick puppy, but he's not this quick. Please also note that the duration that he holds these behaviors is approximately 3 times what you see here because of the sped up footage. In this session, I'm going to work on building some value in Rex's heel position as well as duration in a number of different behaviors. Here I'm working on duration in the down paired with facial focus. Here I've noticed that Rex follows my hand when I put it behind me, so I'm using that to my advantage and putting it behind my head where I want his focus to be. And then I can reward him for that. Notice I'm using the long line here. Rex doesn't feel much pressure from this long line. This is just a safety so that if he decides to disengage, I can reel him back in a recall. We're starting to apply some pressure to Rex. However, the pressure that we're applying is really very gentle. A little bit of collar pressure, a little bit of slip lead pressure. However, the way that Rex deals with pressure is to object and demand. So, we have choices to make, as always, with a puppy like Rex. Do we spend our time fighting objection with adding pressure, or do we spend our time more heavily rewarding the behaviors that we do want? So, we do a little bit of both, and coupling that pressure with a little bit of non-reinforcement of the demanding, and not giving in to objection to the pressure is what I've chosen to do. However, I found that pressure from a prong collar is too much for him. He objects strongly and then literally shuts down out of drive. So that was an early in the week session, and here's a session from later in the week where we see the progress that he's made in his focused healing. Notice I'm using a slip lead here, and at the beginning of the session here, he objects quite strongly to it by throwing his leg over it. There it is. And objected to me taking his paw and putting it back over because I was touching his paw. But I'm using non-reinforcement during that process, as well as non-reinforcement for these jumps where his feet come off the ground or jumps against my leg. And pretty quick here, in about 3 reps, he realizes he's got to put up with the pressure and he is not going to get rewarded for that bad behavior. And he settles right in and has a very good session here. Holding duration quite nicely in these behaviors. A little bit of pressure is helping to finish some of these behaviors, although I'm not looking to really finish these, as Rex is just a puppy. The pressure, again, very, very minor that we're using here. Working on some of this value building in the heel position, getting focused. There's a little bit more objecting, throwing his leg over the slip lead, and throwing his leg against his paw against my leg. Notice the angle that Rex's body is out of plumb. He's exhibiting some classic opposition reflex to the leash or the slip lead, and what that looks like here is he looks like he's the leaning tower of Rex, leaning away from me. That's simply he's pulling against the pressure of the leash. And when I notice this classic opposition reflex building, I realize the pressure is not really helping me, so I drop the leash here. I still have the leash to be able to work a little bit of pressure when needed. And as I read Rex's engagement, if he starts to slip, I'll just plant my foot on the leash with a foot or two of slack so that he can't actually fully disengage, and then I can get him back. He switches so fast to where he goes on a run that I really have to watch and read him. And you'll see me lift my foot and plant it right on the leash and then get him engaged to the point where he doesn't even know yet that I've perceived he's going to disengage, but I've watched and read him enough that he can't get away with that. A lot of his skills are now fully on verbal cue, and here you see healing on verbal cue with distant lure. My lure is all the way up, and he is not jumping anymore. He's not perfect, but again, he's a 4-month-old puppy. And here he's offering some touches on an object, thinking that maybe that will get him the reward. Kind of a demand behavior, but you know what? We can cope with that. Do some downs to stands here. Giving him his good marker. And a nice reward event where he gets to move and chase and spin. Telling him down here, and he's refusing just a little bit, but gets right back into it. Holding duration very nicely. That was a good long one. Nice spin here. Getting him wound up and back into heel. Those spins are intentional during the reward event so that he will become aware of his rear end and be able to flip nicely into the heel position. As you see him do from the front, just flipping around, getting his rear on the ground in the heel position. And there I'm going to call it. Hope you've enjoyed seeing the end of Rex's 4 weeks with us in the very basic puppy course that we run here at Audax Canine Academy. If you're interested in enrolling your dog or young puppy with us, please reach out to us through our website, www.audaxcanine.com. And as always, Semper Audax.